can cross the dimensions, including time.
Apparently.
Christopher Nolan, no doubt one of the greatest filmmakers out there. But making a space movie without actually going to space or even using green screens, that's next level crazy. In a world where everything's digital, who even does that? And yet, Interstellar didn't just work. It became one of the most critically acclaimed sci-fi films ever made.
I mean, on my films, I try to shoot as much in camera as possible. On Interstellar, my last film, for example, we didn't use any green screens.
Meanwhile, CGI-heavy movies don't even come close. So why can't other films capture that same magic? CGI has completely changed how movies are made. Just look at Man of Steel. Henry Cavill was acting with nothing, just a green screen, some markers, and his imagination. That iconic takeoff? He was literally jumping in an empty room. No wind, no real sky, nothing to react to. Now flip that to Interstellar. Those actors weren't pretending. They were in a massive spaceship set. They saw stars outside their windows, felt gravity shifts, and experienced something that actually felt like space. But Nolan, he wasn't done yet. He took it even further. To pull off this whole space travel look, a 2014 Entertainment Weekly article about Interstellar revealed something pretty wild. The trick Nolan used to make it seem like they were floating through space? Turns out it was way more old school than you'd expect. He used rear projection. Now, rear projection, that's a filmmaking technique you don't see much anymore. The way it works is simple. The actors and set are in the foreground, and the background, that's actually a projected image. Back in the day, this was how movies faked movement in car scenes. Just project a moving road behind the actors, and boom, they're driving. One of the most famous and still pretty convincing uses of this, North by Northwest, where Cary Grant is running from that crop duster. Classic Hitchcock. For Interstellar, Nolan took that same trick and ran with it. Every window on his spaceship set had rear projection, showing this endless swirl of stars. The result? A spaceship that felt like it was floating in the middle of space. Now, if you know anything about filmmaking, you're probably thinking, why not just use a green screen? Well, rear projection gives you something green screen never could, a real, tangible environment. The actors aren't just staring at a blank wall, trying to imagine space. They're seeing it, reacting to it, feeling like they're actually there. That makes a difference. And if there's one thing we know about Nolan, it's that he's all about making things feel real. As Entertainment Weekly put it, another director would have hung blue screens and then animated space later. But Nolan, he's got this thing about authenticity. He dislikes blue screens the way the Amish dislike zippers. Now, while old school rear projection has mostly faded out, the idea behind it is still alive in today's big budget movies, just in a different form. Enter digital sound stages like ILM's The Volume. You've seen it in The Mandalorian, The Batman, Thor, Love and Thunder. It's basically this massive wall of LED screens that create virtual sets. Some fans love it, some think it looks fake, but like any tool in filmmaking, it's not about the tech itself, it's about how you use it. When done right, The Volume takes an old idea and gives it a fresh spin, opening up all kinds of creative possibilities. But would Nolan ever trade real locations for LED screens? Probably not. That's just not his style. Even with his biggest, most ambitious ideas, he still respects the classic tricks of the camera. That said, you have to wonder, why go through all that trouble when CGI makes things so much easier? You see, Hollywood leans on CGI because on paper, it looks cheaper. Every big budget blockbuster, Marvel, Star Wars, you name it, builds these massive digital worlds where the actors barely interact with anything real. But here's the problem. It feels empty. Imagine walking into a movie set and seeing nothing. Just an endless green screen stretching in every direction. That's the reality for most CGI-heavy films. Even the best actors struggle in that kind of vacuum. Most sci-fi movies rely on digital backgrounds, forcing actors to pretend they're floating in space while staring at a green wall. But Nolan? He wanted something different. He wanted the actors to feel like they were actually there.
And all Jessica Chastain, who was just on, without a green screen.
No green screen. Yeah, Christopher Nolan, the director and writer, he builds all the sets.
And he wanted the movie to look breathtaking. But his biggest challenge, Gargantua, Now, making those black hole visuals? That was a massive job, blending cutting-edge computer graphics with some seriously deep theoretical physics. The VFX team worked hand in hand with legendary physicist Kip Thorne to make sure the Gargantua was as scientifically accurate as possible. It all started with Thorne. He handed the team a set of equations describing exactly how a black hole works. Its mind-bending gravity, the way it warps light, all of it. The VFX team took those equations and built an entirely new physics-based software to visualize the black hole, using a technique called ray tracing. Now, ray tracing is basically a way to simulate how light moves in the real world. The software traced the paths of millions of light beams as they twisted and bent through the warped space around the black hole, hit the glowing accretion disk, and finally reached a virtual camera. But here's where things got tricky: the accretion disk. That's the swirling ring of superheated matter orbiting a black hole. Because Gargantua's gravity is so intense, the light from the back of the disk doesn't just stay hidden behind it. Instead, the black hole's gravity bends that light around, making it look like the disk is both above and below the black hole at the same time. That's why Gargantua's accretion disk has that bizarre, warped look in the movie. And to make it even crazier, how the disk appears changes depending on your viewpoint. So yeah, the software had to account for that too. Then there was gravitational lensing, another huge challenge. That's what happens when light gets bent by a gravitational field, distorting whatever's behind it. Around Gargantua, this effect twists and stretches starlight into a glowing halo around the black hole. But to get that right, the VFX team had to build their own specialized gravitational lensing algorithm. And here's where it gets even wilder. Just running the simulation was brutal on computers. Each individual frame took nearly 100 hours to render. And for the ultra-high resolution IMAX versions, over 100 hours per frame. In total, they generated more than 800 terabytes of data just to bring Gargantua to life. That's insane. To handle all that, the team had to link thousands of computers together into a massive computing grid just to process it all. The result was a black hole that wasn't just breathtaking, but also scientifically accurate, something never seen before in film. Creating Gargantua in Interstellar was a groundbreaking mix of art, science, and technology, pushing the limits of filmmaking and scientific visualization. And still, that wasn't even the wildest thing he did, because now it was time for the most extreme choice of all. You see, when it came to Interstellar, Nolan wasn't about to fake it. That's why he took the whole crew to Iceland. That water planet scene, shot on a real glacier. No artificial snow, no fake ice. Just the raw, freezing cold of the real thing. And you feel it. The actors weren't just pretending to be cold. They were cold. Their breath, their movements, the way they reacted to the environment, it all added layers of authenticity that CGI just can't replicate. Now don't get me wrong, that towering tidal wave? Yeah, that was special effects. But the fact that Nolan and his team went out and found an actual glacier wash to sell that waterlogged planet, that's next level dedication. And get this, he didn't stop there. Even the spaceships were real. In a Yahoo clip, Nolan breaks it down. Instead of relying on CGI for the spacecraft scenes, he and production designer Nathan Crowley spent months designing and building a full-scale, functional cockpit. They took inspiration from real spacecraft, then brought in astronaut Marsha Evans to fine-tune the details. The result? Not just a prop, but a fully functional flight simulator. It moved, it tilted, it bounced, giving the actors an experience as close to real spaceflight as possible. And because Nolan was filming in a physical space, he captured dynamic camera angles that made everything feel grounded. No green screens, no pretending to push buttons. These actors had real controls, real switches, and a set that actually responded to them. But it didn't stop there. The team built a full exterior for the ship too. That's why those outer shots have that raw, NASA documentary feel Nolan was going for. They even rigged up an actual structure for the landing on the water planet, making sure every moment felt as real and weighty as possible. And yet, the most complicated scene? That was still to come. Up to this point, Nolan had already proven that real effects hit harder than computer graphics. But there was still one final challenge. How do you create a four-dimensional cube? One of the most mind-blowing moments in Interstellar is when Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey, enters this surreal, otherworldly space.
Make a mistake, Murph.
One that lets him communicate through time using gravity. In the movie, this space appears as an endless version of the bookshelf in his daughter's room, repeating infinitely, showing every single moment that has ever happened there. It's basically a cube, but in 4 dimensions. So, how does that even work? Here's the breakdown. The Tesseract is how these higher dimensional beings communicate, using gravity as their language. They don't just see 4 dimensions like we do, they see 5. Past, present, future. It's all the same to them. And because they can manipulate gravity, they can also manipulate time. That's how Cooper is able to send messages to his daughter. He's not bound by time in the way we are anymore. Everything is connected, and now he can move through it. The beings didn't just explain it to him, they let him feel it. Now here's where it gets even crazier. This scene was so intimidating to Christopher Nolan and his special effects team that they put it off for months before even trying to figure out how to pull it off. After endless brainstorming and model building, they landed on an unusual approach, one that went against the Hollywood norm. Instead of relying on heavy digital effects, they built a massive physical set that the actors could move through. And that decision made all the difference. Because the set was real, McConaughey's performance was real. He wasn't just reacting to green screens or pretending to float. He was there, in a physically overwhelming space, feeling trapped. That intensity translated straight to the screen. To make him float, they rigged McConaughey up with cables, letting him glide through the Tesseract and physically interact with the bookshelf.
The bit where Matthew McConaughey's tumbling through a sort of space-time continuum, if that indeed is what he's doing.
Indeed. We built a set for that, and we enhanced it with visual effects.
It's the kind of magic you get when a visionary director has both the creativity and the budget to pull it off. That scene was yet another reminder of how powerful practical effects can be when done right. But here's the real question. Can Hollywood ever pull off something like that again? Now, Christopher Nolan used green screens and CGI in Interstellar. I mean, of course he did, it's a space movie. But here's the thing, that's just standard these days. Love Interstellar, or think the music was a bit much, you've got to admit. It's wild how much of that movie was built on real sets and shot in actual locations. That's what made it feel so real. Think about this. Interstellar had only 700 visual effects shots. That's nothing compared to a Marvel movie, which can have over 2,000 CGI-heavy scenes. And yet, Interstellar won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. Why? Because real effects still hit different. Now, CGI isn't all bad. It's fast, cheaper, and lets you create literally anything. But when it's bad, you know it. It looks fake, weightless, like a cartoon with real actors awkwardly pasted in. And the performances? They take a hit too. Actors stand in front of a green screen, reacting to things that aren't even there. But Interstellar? Everything felt real. You could almost feel the weight of space. That's what makes the difference. And Hollywood knows it's at a crossroads. Keep leaning on CGI or bring back the old school ways. Some directors are trying to find balance. Dune mixed practical sets with CGI. Mad Max. Fury Road barely touched CGI at all. And then there's new tech, like the LED screens in The Mandalorian, blending practical and digital seamlessly. But Christopher Nolan went all in. He reminded everyone what movies used to be and what they still can be. And get this, because of Interstellar, scientists made actual discoveries. When they created the black hole, Gargantua, they weren't just making cool visuals. They ran mind-blowing mathematical simulations, stuff that had never been done before. And the crazy part? The visuals were so accurate, real scientists started studying them. Yeah, a Hollywood movie led to actual science breakthroughs. In a paper published in Classical and Quantum Gravity, the research team laid out the insane computer code they used to create those iconic images of the wormhole, the black hole, and everything in between. And that code? It didn't just make Interstellar look good, it revealed new insights about how light behaves around black holes. The code mapped out millions of light beams, tracking how they bent and shifted through warped spacetime. It was so precise that it generated the most detailed, smooth images of a black hole's glowing accretion disk ever seen. Basically, Interstellar, a movie that avoided over-the-top CGI, ended up advancing real science. That's the power of realism, right there. When filmmakers care about truth, even in fiction, it shows. That's why Interstellar still hits so hard. The cast, the crew, the writers, they went all in to make this story as scientifically accurate as possible. They didn't just throw actors in front of a green screen and call it a day. They built life-sized spaceship rigs. They filmed on real locations. They made a space movie feel real. Who would have thought a movie about wormholes and the end of the world would make history off-screen too? But what do you think? Real or CGI? Which effects hit harder? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And hey, while you're at it, don't forget to like the video and hit that subscribe button for more content like this.